What's up if you're excited for AEW Full Gear 2020 and I'm going to expect a 100% hand up ratio? Otherwise, why did you click this video? You're going to be one of those negative Nancys that comes in and goes, I don't like anything that's going on. Find a way to be a positive Pete, take some marshmallows, put them on your tum-tum, and then you're going to feel all peaches and cream. But it is a big deal. AEW are ramping up. It is their last pay-per-view of 2020. So before we do get there, we need to do the most important thing in the world, maybe not really, and predict what's going to happen. So I've taken my brain, I've come up with some ideas, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. And we will start with a match that I believe at one point was on the pre-show and now has been moved to the main card, and that is Long John Silver, he of the Dark Order, taking on Orange Cassidy, because of course the Dark Order and the Piece of Fruit have been at odds for quite a while now. You could even say that they cost Orange Cassidy the TNT Championship, and that's why I'm just a little bit worried about this, because do you know who we haven't seen for a while? Well, Repo Man, I'm still waiting for him, but also the one and only Brody Lee. Now, really, I do think Orange Cassidy will win this, because as much as I like John Silver, he doesn't need a victory. He can just go on BTE and be absolutely hilarious. But yeah, what if Brody Lee does make his return here and kind of just flubs up Orange Cassidy? I suppose you could do that after the fact, but I just think at some point he needs to make his grand return after he did get defeated by Cody. And something is just smelling like it's going to be this weekend. With all that said though, Orange Cassidy is still kind of coming off that feud with Chris Jericho, which he won by the way. I don't think you want to throw that away. In fact, what I think you need to do is allow him to get quite a solid victory here and then put him in another big program that maybe can last 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, really give him something he can sink his teeth into. So yeah, I'm going to say Orange Cassidy does win, but afterwards he gets wrecked by Brody Lee. What do you know? There's the program we can dig into and just swim around. Not sure how he comes out of that one alive, but I don't have to worry about it. The AEW Women's Championship is also going to be on the line, as it is the champion Shida taking on Nyla Rose with Vickie Guerrero in her corner. And this is actually quite a tough one to call, mostly because the build's only been 2 weeks, so you don't really know what direction All Elite Wrestling is going to go in. Shida's held the title for a long time, so you could change it, but Nyla Rose has kind of just gone pop and become a contender from nowhere. So I don't really know what we're gonna do. I mean, do you want to beat Nyla again? Does that do anything for her sort of monster character that she's got? Or do you want to kind of make Shida the person that doesn't lose the title because she's such a damn good wrestler? I have liked the 2 matches these two have had before, so I think they'll absolutely, pow, knock it out of the park again. But I'm actually more stuck on this one than I thought I should be. But given that I don't think many other titles are changing hands, I'm gonna say that Nyla Rose becomes the new champion and that damn Vickie Guerrero is gonna have something to do with it. I mean, did you hear her potty mouth on Dynamite this week? Disgusting. And then things are gonna get massively weird because we are gonna get the Elite Deletion match as Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara finally blow off their feud. Now, you'll be very pleased to hear this is a cinematic match, so the forces of evil that have kept getting in the way of this and tried to kill both competitors, well, it's already probably been filmed. And they're both alive, so there's nothing to worry about. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I think you have to let Matt Hardy win. Now, I know that's a really weird thing to say, but it ties into other things that I believe are going to happen. One, do you remember a while ago when Matt Hardy came out and cut that amazing babyface promo? I think we need to capitalize on that and put him in some kind of position after this where he can pull the trigger. As for Sammy Guevara, you need him right now to fall into a well. He needs to go down and down and down and down and down, because I think secretly he's in cahoots with MJF. And the reason I say that is, of course, we're going to get Maxwell Jacob Friedman versus Chris Jericho, and I think MJF's going to worm his way into the inner circle. And who has he fallen out with the most? Sammy. So if you put him in a position where he's down on his luck and he's feeling like crap and he doesn't feel like Chris Jericho has got his back, the way he comes back to normality, or even higher, is by saying, hey MJF, let's be the best of friends, I now believe in you, and the rest will be history. Honestly though, in terms of the modern cinematic match, you can put that all on the shoulders of Matt Hardy. He was doing the whole broken stuff years ago in TNA Impact, whatever the hell you want to call it. So I know this is going to be entertaining. I also know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I don't care, because when I'm drinking tea, I'm not drinking yours, I'm only drinking mine. It's going to be absolutely crazy. I bet I laugh. My prediction is at least 8 times out loud, but Matt Hardy will get the win. How he gets the win, I don't know. Maybe he turns himself into a goat and goes meh, and then gets the pin. I mean, think of the other stuff he's done before. And we will jump straight into Chris Jericho versus MJF because I've kind of just given that away, but it's nice and simple. The storyline writes itself, which is why Max has got to get the 1, 2, 3. Now, it's all going to be about execution because you don't want to beat Chris Jericho too much. He is one of the company's biggest stars, but you just have to make it happen. MJF gets in the inner circle, he does what The Rock did to the Nation back in the late 90s, he usurps Chris, Le Champion goes out of the group, he does his big FaceTime, it's probably about time for that, people would enjoy it, and from there, you have a new version of the inner circle with MJF leading it, and he just goes up and up and up and up and up, before he becomes one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. You also then set up feuds for days because Chris Jericho will have to go through Ortiz, have to go through Santana, have to go through Sammy Guevara, have to go through Jake Hager. Then eventually he gets to MJF and Wardlow probably helps out Chris Jericho and he becomes a good guy as well. I don't know why we're predicting 2021. That's just where we've got to. But I would imagine there's going to be a mistake by somebody in the inner circle which does cause Jericho to lose, and then you can get excited for a lot of shenanigans between MJF, Chris Jericho, and everybody else here. And I, for one, believe it will be very entertaining. Moving on to the TNT Championship, and flub me, what the hell is AEW gonna do? You're gonna have to come up with quite the argument to convince me that Cody isn't about to go full-on bad guy, but maybe I'm being worked, and that's all right. Sometimes you go on the internet, people are like, I can't believe wrestling company tricked me. That's what pro wrestling is. You should enjoy the fact that you bought in and you believed. The thing is that Darby Allin needs a massive win soon, and he probably needs it against someone like Cody, who of course he drew with back in the day. But do you really want to take the TNT title off him this soon? I think it's actually more worth in keeping it on Cody and having him transform the Emperor from Star Wars and then like crapping all over the young up and coming stars before one, probably Darby Allin down the line, does defeat him. They're like, oh, he did it, the Empire's dead. My out of nowhere prediction, and it's not really that crazy because everyone's talking about it online anyway, is that surely we are gonna do something with Sting soon. I don't mean just because his Legends deal's ended with WWE, but why the hell would you take Darby and put him in the rafters as if he was the Stinger from back in the day if that wasn't the plan? That just feels like a massive tease. I don't like being teased. Makes me sad. And don't get me wrong either, I think the TNT Championship should be allowed to change hands more often than the AEW World Championship, because that's the sole reason it exists. It's a TV title, and TV titles were born so you could change them on television while keeping the importance of your World Championship alive. So you don't want to get away from that, otherwise it defeats the object. But I do think Cody has to keep on it here. I think the biggest story we need to tell is him going to the dark side, but it will still be Darby Allin coming back in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever, to finally bring him back down to where he needs to be. So let's say by February at Revolution, Darby Allin will then be your TNT title. And poof, Cody, he's probably going to be Mumra from the Thundercats. Remember Mumra? That guy was terrifying. And speaking of that other championship, we are getting Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston in not only an I Quit match, but maybe in an actual fight. If you watch Ups and Downs, you know, I don't think either of these guys remember that wrestling is a work, especially Eddie Kingston. That dude is just living in the moment. Unfortunately for him though, he does have to lose. I know that absolutely sucks, but Jon Moxley needs to keep this title for reasons we'll get into in just 1 second. And also, I kind of see a pathway for Eddie Kingston where he too becomes a good guy. And that's all because of Pac. Because if you saw the video that the bastard did do on Dynamite, I swear we heard Eddie Kingston talking in the background because of course technically he has broken up Death Triangle. And while I love Pac, he's so crazy and he's so weird, there's no way you can turn him face. You can with Eddie Kingston, because again, everything he says you believe. So if you want to go in that direction, you need to separate him from the brotherhood or the family, whatever he's calling it. What better way to do it than with a loss to Jon Moxley after a hard-fought victory, which is also going to make you love him even more. Then his friends turn on him. It writes itself. Well, it doesn't, like Tony Khan's writing it, but still. It doesn't even matter though, there's gonna be no winners or losers in this because they're gonna beat the crap out of each other. It's gonna be so visceral, it's gonna be so violent, it's just gonna be on another level. And as I always say, if you had told me at the start of 2020 I would be this hyped and this amped for Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston, I would have thought you were crazy. It's going to be wonderful. And how the hell Jon Moxley gets him to say I quit, I don't know. Maybe he goes and gets Eddie Kingston's mother and like puts a gun to her head. And, oh, I quit. I mean, come on now. These two and what they've been saying, it could actually happen. Either way, Eddie says I quit. Jon wins, still the champ. So yes, Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega in the finals of the #1 contender tournament for that world title. This has been so well built, to the point anyone that tells me on Twitter that it's so boring they've gone in this direction, I actually think you're crazy. I love you, and you're entitled to your opinion, but it'd be like watching a romantic comedy and being pissed off when they got together at the end. Sometimes you just need to do the obvious, and that's exactly what this is. You don't even need to do anything silly because Hangman Page is a brilliant wrestler and so is Omega. You can just let them go at it for 20, 25, even 30 minutes, have an amazing back and forth, make sure there's a ton of near falls to the point you don't know who's going to win until ultimately the Cowboy gets smashed with the one-wing angel, he gets pinned for the 1, 2, 3, and then we are off to the races. Because on the one hand, you can finally turn Kenny back into the cleaner, back into the New Japan guy as he goes after Jon Moxley, and then, yes, wins the championship. I think you have to do that, because on the other side, Hangman Page then needs to go through some sort of, revolution of his own, where he hits rock bottom, and he has to stop drinking booze, and he has to climb all his way back to the top, which he does do, and you know where his top is? Do you know where the ceiling is? Him beating Kenny Omega for that championship like 12 months down the line. That's right, I'm booking long term. Because you do not need to have Page as the champion right now. He has all the sympathy in the world, and if he comes this close and he doesn't get it, my sympathy will probably pour out of me like blood. Too much. Omega, on the other hand, is going to benefit massively with this new character that he's developing, and if he does beat Jon Moxley, who's also held that title for like 72 years, it justifies it. And that's the problem with turns. Do you remember AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura? Nakamura loved punching people in the balls, but did it get him the title? No. Did it get him anywhere? No. You have to make sure that you get good results. Kenny Omega become the champion is a pretty damn good result. Once again though, much like Moxley and Eddie, you're not going to care by the end of this. It's going to be one of the best matches of the year. And I know I shouldn't put that amount of expectation on it, but I already have. But I'm going with Kenny. Which means our last match, and probably what will main event the pay-per-view, although you never really know, will be FTR, your AEW Tag Team Champions, finally having a match against the Young Bucks. This is what, 4 years in the making? That's a long ass time. And what's really thrown me, as I'm sure it's thrown you too, is this stipulation that if the Young Bucks do not win, they can never challenge for the titles again. So in my world, there is no way they can lose. You can't have the Bucks and Cody not being able to go after their main championships. That just seems so crazy. But then there's something coming out of nowhere in the sense, if you read the dirt sheets like I do, apparently Matt Jackson is really injured, he may need surgery, so you don't want to make him the champion, then he goes away. This one is utterly confusing. And there's also the argument from some people, well, FTR only just won the belts, so why the hell would they lose them so soon? Now, I actually think you can get around that because they're such dicks, no one's actually going to be annoyed if that does happen. This is a real conundrum. But there's no point not making a prediction because that would waste the entire concept of this video, so I think you have to give it to Matt and Nick Jackson. You just do. AEW's been around for ages now and they've never had any kind of championship, which feels crazy because they're basically the reason that it exists. And once again, going back to what I just said, I don't want Cody being hamstrung and these two guys being hamstrung as well. I actually think that's booking yourself into a corner, and nobody wants to be in the corner. It's cold, and if you have some kind of damp problem, you're gonna get wet. It's always in the flipping corner. So I'm going to imagine that Tully Blanchard probably screws up and hits one of his own guys or something like that, or maybe we do something with this long tease 4 horsemen. But Matt and Nick Jackson, as far as I'm concerned, as an AEW fan, have to win. If you want to take the belts off them a week later because Matt Jackson does need to go away, then that is fine. But here, just so they can challenge for them again, you bet your ass you better do it. So that is it. That is AEW Full Gear, and on paper it looks like an absolutely tremendous pay-per-view, and I'm going to spend my money and I'm going to be very excited. And again, they have been teasing a massive debut in all of their vignettes, so maybe it is Sting. I know they have a lot of legends already, but it's Sting. Don't even pretend you ain't going to pop when you see Sting. Unless it's the bassist from The Police, then you're going to be like, well, I didn't see that coming. But what are you going to do? Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know your predictions for the pay-per-view. I want to know what you think. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head over to whatculture.com, read yourself some articles, follow What Culture on Twitter, What Culture WWE, and watch more videos here on What Culture Wrestling. My name is Simon from What Culture. I truly hope from the bottom of my loins that you do enjoy AEW Full Gear, because the world is kind of crazy right now. So wherever you can get entertainment, you should. I'll see you soon.